Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of the New American Media Podcast. In honor of AAPI month, we have the founder, CEO of KoreaFest here in the Triangle, Miss Heoak Lee. And we're going to talk to her a little bit about her background as a new American, when she immigrated here, and about Korea Fest and what it's all about. Let's go.
Hello.
Great to have you on the show today. Tell me a little bit about what kind of gave you the idea to start Korea Fest and a little bit about your background, immigrating here to the United States, and kind of that process and how it was growing up for you. Did you grow up here in North Carolina or somewhere out of state, or where?
Okay, that is a big question. I came from Korea. I was born in Korea, and then my family moved to the United States when I was 9 years old. And we actually settled in Arlington, Virginia, which is in Northern Virginia. And that's where I grew up, attended my school there in Northern Virginia. And I actually moved to Raleigh because I married. So
Okay.
my husband, yes, my husband already started a business here. We actually met at George Mason University, but he moved here to start his business. And so I moved when we married, and I have been here ever since. So I have been living in this area for going on 32 years now.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's been a long time. But to answer one of your questions, so my first love is traditional Korean dance. And that's something that I started when I was in Korea. And while I was growing up in Northern Virginia, I was part of a group and we performed everywhere. And so when I was in high school, it's when I actually choreographed a dance to perform. And so I gathered my friends from high school. So to tell you a little more, actually, so the high school that I went to it was a very, very mixed school. So there was 2,200 students. So it was a very big school. And when I was there, we had students from 52 countries. And there were 33 languages that were spoken at the school. So it was very, very multicultural school. And so we had international week. We had international different programs, and we had entertainment. So there was international entertainment that was put on by the students at the school. And actually, for my junior and senior year of when I was there at the school, I was the student director for that program. And so I was involved in putting up posters, sign-up sheets, gathering everybody together, going through the auditioning process.
What you're saying is you have a lot of experience doing this.
I didn't realize it at the time, of course, but yes, I actually started doing this back when I was in high school, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this was old school where I actually had to sit in front of a typesetting machine and typed up all the information that was going to go in the program. And this was like not what it is today, but way back when. And so I still have all the negatives from all the photos that went into the printing machines. And we went out and got ads. We sold ads for the program book and everything. But anyway, so that's kind of where I think all this stemmed from. My love for the Korean dance, and then the fact that I started choreographing dances back in high school, and I got involved in directing and putting the shows together. And so after I married, I started my own dance company here, the Korean traditional dance, and it was called Imperial Jewel. So it started back in 1997 and it ran for, until just recently. And so we performed every year at the International Festival of Raleigh, which, if you're familiar with
I've been to that.
Yes,
it's a huge festival.
Yes, three-day event. And I have been involved in that ever since I moved to the area. And so that all kind of tied in. And I think putting on a Korean festival is something that has been in the back of my mind for many, many years. So KoreaFest started back in 2017. We hosted the first Korean festival in the state of North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
And from there, we expanded. And from the very small venue that we started from, we moved into the Carl Scott building at the NC State Fairgrounds. So from 2018 to 2020, so we did 3 years at the NC State Fairgrounds.
Nice.
And then pandemic happened. So we actually were very lucky to have produced the live event on, it was February 29th of 2020.
Oh, wow. So right before COVID started.
Yes,
so that's
before
great.
Everything just really went bad. And then last year for 2021, we were able to pull off the virtual event. So that was a 3-day event virtually in June of last year. And then for this year, we are planning to hold the live event once again. And we are actually moving to a larger venue.
Oh,
we
wow.
are going to be in the exposition center, which is actually just more than twice the size of where we were previously. So this is our 6th annual event, which will be held on November the 19th and 20th, Saturday and Sunday. So it is one weekend before Thanksgiving weekend. So one of the main things that we feature at KoreaFest are the contests. We have been hosting the Korean singing contest.
Oh, wow.
The K-pop dance contest, which is actually in 2 separate categories, the solo division as well as the group division. And then this year, we're actually introducing a new segment to the contest, which is going to be called Creative Tae Kwon Do Performance.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. So that will also be a group category.
No, that sounds great. How could, if we have any of our listeners that live in the area, how could they register for these events or try out?
So we just recently started our full-blown advertisement about the event. And nckoreafest.com is the website that you can check out. And there you will find the link to be able to submit your audition videos to enter the contest. The submission is going to be opening up later this month at the end of May.
Oh,
so
okay.
Right now, you just need to practice and get ready. So once that portal opens up, you can submit your audition videos.
That's great. That's awesome.
Well, as with any other immigrant story, we came to the United States back in the 70s. And my parents were a little bit older. And so they, to this day, they are not well spoken English is not their strength.
Right.
And
Right.
so growing up, I had to do a lot of that kind of work for them. Any kind of paper that came from school, I had to explain what it was. And so actually when I was, it wasn't too long after I came to the States. And when you go on field trips, you know, you had to get permission slips filled out.
Right.
And we had no idea what that was. And so I know there was one time I didn't get to go on the field trip because the permission slip wasn't filled out. It wasn't signed. And so many different things just growing up, I had to always, because I'm the older child, I had to
Yes.
always do all kinds of paperwork on their behalf. I had to make phone calls for them and stuff like that growing up. And so there was a lot of responsibility in that regard. But other than that, growing up, I think because we always spoke Korean at home, it was encouraged by my parents. Also because they didn't speak English, so we didn't really have any
You
other
didn't have a
choice.
choice.
Right. In order to be able to talk to them, I had to speak to them in Korean. And so I know there was always that. And the fact that I was so involved in the Korean dance, that also played a role in the pride of being a Korean American. And we spoke Korean at home, and a lot of the cultural aspects were also, you know, instilled in us from my parents.
I want to kind of go on a tangent there, and I want to hear, what are your thoughts on Korean culture today, not just back in Seoul, but I would even say Korean American culture, because that whole subset is huge. And how would you deal with children today? And do you like make sure that they speak Korean in the house and that kind of thing? Because I've got two little girls, 5 and 9, and we try as much as we can to speak Gujarati in the house, but it's difficult, you know? And that's what they say, your culture usually only lasts 3 to 4 generations, and how to keep that kind of going.
It is very difficult, and I've had the same issue raising my children. So my firstborn, my son, it was easier with him because it was just the adults and my child. And so we spoke to him in Korean. And so when he actually went to, we tried putting him in preschool. It didn't work out too well. So he didn't last too long, and he went into kindergarten. And he had a difficult time picking up English. And so it was in the 3rd grade, actually. He got really mad at me. He was very, very frustrated. And on the drive to school, he was very upset. And he was saying, "Why didn't you teach me English? Because I don't understand." And this was in the third grade.
Oh,
so
wow.
I guess what he was saying was that he didn't, because the English being spoken at school is different than what is being spoken at home. Okay.
Correct.
So children were using words that he didn't understand, words that were used at home, right? So he got mad at me for not teaching him English. Okay. And I had a talk with him in the car before he on the way to school. And I explained it to him. I said, you know, I was in 3rd grade when I came from Korea, and I didn't speak any English at all. And I was explaining to him how lucky he was compared to where I was when I first came, saying, you know, my parents didn't speak any English, so therefore they couldn't even fill out the permission slip to go on a field trip. They couldn't even come to school to have any kind of conference with the teacher. They couldn't help me do any of my homework. I mean, they just couldn't do anything for me in that regard. And so I explained to my child, you know, I go to lunch with you at school, I come volunteer at school, and you have all these added benefits that I didn't get. And after I told him that story, you know, he got very quiet. And after that day, he never brought up that topic again.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, I know that's a little off topic here.
No, that's great. That's exactly what I like to hear, because a lot of the things I always say as well is our parents had it significantly harder than we have, you know? And then when I hear my children sometimes complain, she's 9 years old, she's in third grade right now. She's like, oh, this or that. And I'm like, you really have to realize where we came from just 2 generations ago. And then you've got to sit down with them and do exactly what you did for them to understand perspective. Because children need to learn perspective today, especially children of immigrants, because they don't realize how hard it was just 1 or 2 generations ago.
Well, they don't know, and they can't. And so with my daughter, it's a different story. There's 4.5-year difference in age. And with her, of course, we try to do the same thing and teach her to speak Korean. She didn't want to. And so this was back when she was in the first grade, around that age. I tried to teach her how to read and write and get her more involved in the language. And she just didn't show interest.
Right.
And so I didn't have a choice. And it's something that you have to want. You can't force it on the children. And so I said, okay, I'm just telling you, you may regret it later on, because I've seen that happen so many times. But it's your choice ultimately. And if you are not willing to learn this, I can't force it on you. I can sit here with you, you know, but it's not going to soak in. So I told her, you can't blame this on me later. It's your choice not to do it. And but anytime that you want to, you know, I'm here, you can ask me, and then we can do this at any time. And
no,
she
great.
is, but she's 27 and she hasn't reached out yet.
Okay.
But, you know, let me tell you that kind of ties in with why I'm so passionate about hosting Korea Fest. And it is for the next generation. And it is really for, I mean, that is my personal mission and my personal message that I deliver at Korea Fest each year. It is for the second, third, fourth generation of Korean Americans, as well as those that have like a parent or a grandparent or even a great-grandparent of a Korean descent. And especially to those that have been adopted from Korea. I want them to really feel the pride in their heritage. So when I put on this Korean festival, what's called Korea Fest 2022 for this year, I mean, that is the message that I have been delivering for the past, 5 festivals. And it's open to everybody to come and enjoy and learn, but especially for those that have a Korean heritage. I just want to make sure that they can really have an appreciation for the Korean culture and take pride in being a Korean American.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this month's episode with Miss Heoak Lee, founder and organizer of NC Korea Fest here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Check out nckoreafest.com for tickets, more information, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for next month's episode.